the Candypants Lifestyle Podcast. Interviewing the world's industry leaders on their journey.
Where do we go from here?
Hello and welcome along to the Candypants Lifestyle Podcast. I'm Nick, and this week we dive into the world of rugby league. With England set to host the 2021 Rugby World Cup, what better time to hear from one of our hometown heroes, England and Leeds Rhino scrum half Luke Gale. Luke talks us through the highs and lows of his incredible career so far, including that World Cup final defeat, and how he hopes that just maybe they can go one better this time round. This is the journey of Leeds' very own Mr Luke Gale. Luke, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Like a man who is now a bit of a king in the city where Candypants all started, back in Leeds.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. So, happy to come on. And as we say, a Leeds lad, and that's where it originated.
Let's talk about you. So, how did you end up getting into rugby league?
I think probably just my whole family and the area I'm from. I'm from a small place in Leeds called Middleton, which is kind of like a hotbed of rugby league. Many players kind of grown up there and made it professional. So I think it was just kind of in my blood. Started playing at 6 years old for the local team and kind of went from there, really, going through school that I was one of them kids where probably a cocky kid at school that the teachers hated, saying, I'm going to be a rugby player. I signed a professional contract at 16 years old with Leeds Rhinos, my hometown club. And it kind of went from there, really. So from a young age, I was just kind of determined and one-track minded to kind of make it as a rugby league player. So
at that age, how much do you think when you were young the difference was between just sheer work ethic and the fact that you just happened to be naturally talented?
Yeah, that's a great question. I suppose I think the work ethic is the biggest one. I mean, I was lucky enough to play for kind of England, even at a young age, at under 12s, and represented Yorkshire and stuff like that. But I had people in my team who were equally as talented as me, if not more talented. I remember when I signed for Leeds Rhinos at 16, I think there was kind of 10 of us. And I think only 2 of us kind of actually made it out of that group. So, and look, I probably wouldn't have been the best player out of them back then. But as you say, the work ethic and I think the sacrifices that you kind of have to do. I mean, 15, 16, when you're leaving school, my friends are you get into drinking, they get into going out. You're sort of at that age there when it can go both. But I remember I trained 4 nights a week, so I kind of never really had that. And I would much rather go training than kind of knock about on the streets like most of my friends were doing. So I would say I sacrificed that. I still got back into it, when I got a bit older and I understood once I'd made it, I made up for lost time. But yeah, I think that sacrifice at a young age definitely helped. I see that when all throughout my career, when you've got players who are so talented but they kind of haven't got the mindset, and I believe that mindset is one of the strongest attributes.
So go back to your journey. Obviously, you were at Leeds, and then you moved on from there. What was that like at that age? I think it was about 18 or something, was it, when you left?
Yeah, so I moved, and this kind of goes to the mindset as we've been speaking about. I at Leeds at 18, I had Danny Maguire, obviously a great rugby player, and Rob Burrow. They were my position in front of me. And at 18, they're kind of just starting their journey.
It's tough to get that opportunity.
It is, and as history tells you, I kind of had no chance in hell to get rid of them two. No. So then my Leeds obviously said, look, kind of, we don't see a place for you. And I moved on. I kind of took a backward step. Well, a lot of people would see it as a backward step, but I actually didn't. I moved down a division at 19. I played for Doncaster, which is kind of semi-pro. And I kind of went down that route, which at the time a lot of people were kind of saying, look, that's kind of a bad way to go about it. But I didn't see it as that. I saw it as you're kind of playing semi-pro, but you're playing with adults at that time. 18,
and you're
19.
playing consistently.
Correct, yeah, and you're kind of running the team. My position, obviously, scrum half. Without boring, you kind of bosses the team. And at 18, 19, I was doing that with men, so I believe that stood me in great stead come later on in my career. But I kind of got told, obviously Leeds didn't want to sign you, which it's a massive kick in the teeth.
What was that like with it being your hometown?
Yeah.
And you've been there since 12 or something?
I'd been there since... Yeah, I signed at kind of 12 years old, he started a scholarship. So I'd been without signing professional contracts when you were 16, but I was training since 12 years old. So I'd been there 6-7 years. It was a kick in the teeth, but I just was determined to work more, just more hard. That's my mindset. Would just keep working and you'll get your dream. And I had 1 year at Doncaster, and I actually I scored 44 tries, which broke the record that year. Yeah. And then I went to London. Then I signed for Harlequins, London Broncos, when I was 20. So I moved down to London at 20 years old, which again was a great life experience.
So from London, you then ended up coming back up to Bradford, if that's right.
Yeah, that's
probably
right,
more to that kind of rugby league heartland. What was that like, and what brought that about?
Yeah, so I think London kind of as a team where it's probably struggling. It's got a lot of overseas players coming towards the back end of the career, or young players starting out. They're kind of like, if I were to put it in football terms, always struggling around relegation, if that makes sense, and kind of. Yeah. But you get a chance there, and I got my chance, and I did 3 good years, and I kind of spoke with my manager and I said, look, I've had enough. I want to go back up north. So we got the deal done with Bradford. Bradford were it were a bit of a crossroads in my career, if I'm totally honest. Bradford were like a juggernaut of rugby league, and they were a great team, but they kind of had money issues. So we went into liquidation, I think twice out of 3 years I were there. And it was just a crossroads. And during that time, I think I was 25 years old, and my career kind of stalled, really. I had a good beginning. I did well at London, did well at Doncaster. I kind of went, if I'm honest, went stale at Bradford. And at the time, I think I was 26 years old. My mum actually passed away of cancer. And that were kind of the crossroads in my career. I either kind of drift away and don't play the game, or I kick on and kind of make some of myself. And that. If you don't mind me asking,
if you don't mind me asking, how much did that kind of affect you at the time? Not just your rugby, but you as a person.
Massively. It's obviously it gave me a mindset of I didn't think I could be hurt like that. So it gave me a bigger boost, if I'm honest. And I'm like, look, I've lost my mum. My mum played the biggest part in my career to this day has been my mum. From being, as I say, I started at 6 years old. So she would drive me literally all around the country playing rugby. She'd drive me four nights a week training. And to lose her, and it kind of gave me the catalyst that I needed to kind of kick on with my career. And as I said, I didn't think that I can't be hurt any more than I already have been hurt. When I look back now, it gave me kind of everything that I needed. And since then, I kind of signed for Castleford the same year. And then from Castleford, I have had 5 years at Castleford, and that's kind of where my career kind of kicked off. And from then, we had a real good side at Castleford, and it kind of when I look back, that was a catalyst for that kind of improvement.
It's strange, isn't it? It's how sometimes the hardest and the worst things you go through are the biggest things you learn and grow from, I guess.
Yeah, and that's 100% as you said. That the hardest thing, I don't believe I could go through anything. Obviously, I've got kids now, and I think the hardest thing, my mum never got to meet my kids as well. So that's one where every time they're at the games, It's a tough one. It's a tough one. My kids absolutely love coming to my games. But as I say, yeah, that were the kind of the start of the journey and the progression really. And still to this day, I kind of owe everything to my mum, and I know I won't be in this position I'm in now without my mum's massive input on my career.
What impact do you think having your kids and that whole thing, everything that comes with it, had on not just you as a person, but you playing rugby?
Yeah, I believe, obviously, when they're young, I've got an 18-month-old called Peaches and a 5-year-old called Betsy. Like Betsy, she absolutely loves it now. She's a cheerleader. So I've just gone from Castleford to Leeds Rhinos, literally.
She must just think you're a superhero.
She actually does. We've been on a bike ride today, and someone was working, and someone stopped me for a picture as I'm on my bike ride, and they stood like 2 meters away, and she said, "Dad, why has that worker just asked for your picture?"
Because I suppose she's at the age she just doesn't get it yet, does she?
Yeah, she don't kind of get it, and but no, she absolutely loves it, and I remember she, as I say, she was a cheerleader for Castleford, and she absolutely loved Castleford. And I made the move to Leeds Rhinos probably 6 months ago, and the hardest conversation was trying to get Betsy to understand that I'm going to Leeds Rhinos. And I remember as soon as the offer come in, I said, "Betsy, your dad's going to have to move clubs." And she said, "Dad, I don't want you to move clubs." And I actually brought the mascot to her birthday. So the Castleford mascot is called JT. He's a big tiger. And when she was 4, I got him to come down, and she absolutely loves him. And she said, "Dad, I don't want you to go to Leeds Rhinos because I don't want a rhino coming to my birthday party." So that was the hardest conversation, trying to get my 5-year-old daughter that I was going to Leeds Rhinos, which she wasn't best pleased about.
And she's your biggest critic, I bet.
She is my biggest critic, and I'll come off the pitch and I'll say, "Look, Dad, I thought you were great, but you missed 2 kicks today, Dad." And I'm like, that is harsh.
Nothing hurts like that, does it?
Yeah, that is very harsh. Whereas I suppose my mum had, every time I'd play, I remember my dad's a harsh critic. I don't even think to this day, I've played for England 9 times, I've played a World Cup final, and my dad's been literally all over the world to watch me play rugby, and I don't ever think he's said that I've had a good game. Even thinking back now, I don't think he's ever just patted me on the back and said, "Do you know what, Luke, you were good today." It's just not in him. But my mum,
isn't it strange how you that's the one you want the most?
Yeah, it's and I suppose he's got better now. But I remember, as I say, I played in a World Cup final. I flew him out to we played in Brisbane, against Australia, and I flew him out and in the hotel and that after the game, and I just thought, do you know how amazing that is for, I don't know, just to have my family
and to
there.
see it in my son's playing in the World Cup final.
It was amazing. But yeah, it's still, my dad is definitely my toughest critic. But I could have had an absolute nightmare. I would have come off and Mum said, "You were great today, Luke." And I suppose that's just the difference in mentalities. But yeah, Betsy's took over kind of my mum's role, and Betsy just thinks that I'm great all the time.
So you've mentioned it there, but to play in a World Cup final for your country, tell me, what is that like?
It was an amazing. I think the World Cup itself was. I think it was 2017, and Castleford got to the grand final that year. We got you play the biggest game of the year is the grand final. You play at Old Trafford. We'd won the league in rugby. It's kind of different to football. We won the league by 10 points, so we kind of run away with the league, but it kind of means nothing. It obviously meant something to me, but in rugby league, it kind of means nothing. Winning the league, you've got to win the grand final, and then you kind of go in a playoff to get to the grand final. So anyway, we get to the grand final, and we got beat by Leeds. We'd actually beaten them 3 times that year, and we played absolutely terrible. Old Trafford was absolutely hammered it down all day, and it was like a scrappy game, and we just never turned up. And that was kind of the biggest disappointment of my career to that point. But I kind of had no time to think about it because 5 days later, we was flying out to Australia to the World Cup. And we did 7 weeks in Australia, went to Melbourne, Sydney, New Zealand. We played a semi-final in New Zealand. And we kind of travelled the whole of Australia, and we ended up getting to the final. And again, we got beat 6-0, which is it's like a 1-0 in football. It's the kind of the minimal margin. And when I kind of on the plane on the way home, I sat down and kind of the last 2 months were kind of a whirlwind, getting to 2 major finals, and I got beat in both, and it kind of sunk in on the plane home with a couple of red wines, I think, on the way home.
What's it like to deal with that? How did you so near but yet so far?
Yeah, and it's still. I think that's my intrinsic driver to this day. Getting to the grand final again. Obviously, I'm with a different team now, with Leeds Rhinos, but that's still, and I still think about what I could have done different both them nights. And that's kind of, I suppose that's kind of what gets me up in the morning, keeps me driving towards that goal of lifting the biggest trophy in our game. So I suppose the biggest thing is that you learn from it, and I'd have done things a lot differently if I got my chance again.
So bringing us to kind of a little bit more recent times, you've left Castleford, you've come to Leeds, who, for people who don't know, are quite rivals, but you've also come home. What on earth has that been like? Because I guess it's kind of, there's highs and lows of both sides to it.
Yeah, it was all last summer really, and there were loads of speculation. I mean, you'd go into supermarket, as you say, rugby league's a real tight-knit community, and Castleford and Leeds are not all that far away. And you'd go into supermarket, and obviously there's press. It'd be being in the press kind of all summer, and people would be saying, "Are you going? Are you going? Are you staying?" And it were kind of one of them. I just kind of wanted to get it over the line, and it was a move that kind of, I had 5 great years at Castleford, and sometimes I just needed a new change. I needed a kind of fresh scenery, and as you say, I'm coming home, and that was the biggest thing for me. I was a Leeds fan growing up. I was a supporter from being probably 6-7 years old, going to the South Stand every week. My mum would take me there, and that was it. It was kind of the coming home that got me, that really pushed it for me and got me the deal.
It's difficult to kind of talk to you without talking about like the injuries you had, and obviously you had 2 that were fairly close together, and you were just coming back, and it almost happened again. Now, what was that like? Did you ever think, I might not play again here?
Yeah, and again, I just think it's kind of the mindset again. I injured my knee. I actually dislocated my knee and got a bit of what's it called? A bit of a fracture in my knee, and it kind of it was just a freak incident, really. Just a bit of a whack on it, and kind of played on. Didn't think it was too bad. Went for a bit of a scan, and he said, "Oh, look, you'll need an operation. You've fractured your knee, like what's it called on the top of it, like your knee socket, so to speak. Your knee cap that was fractured, and a bit of damage underneath, and kind of went in 6-month operation, 6-month recovery time. Come back." Everything going great. I'd obviously missed 6 months. I thought I was flying, and as you say, the second injury come, I snapped my Achilles, which, if you know anyone who's ever done it, or the sound of it snapping is terrible. So that was just in training, and I remember I was training with Jesse Semlefeo at the time. He's an Islander, I think a New Zealand fella, training with Castleford, and we're just running, and I've kind of gone down, and it's like I've been shot, to be fair. And you know yourself, I knew straight away that it's fully snapped. And Jesse kind of is a religious guy, and he's saying a prayer at the bottom of my leg, and he's saying, "Look, I hope." It were like I'd gone into a movie or something. I looked down at my leg, and I've got my teammate saying a prayer at the bottom of my leg. It was quite a surreal experience, and I suppose it's like you're doing your ACL. It's like a big operation.
Injury,
yeah, it's massive. And like you say, I'd done 2 on the bounce. I was approaching 30, and people kind of say, "Is that you done?" 2 serious injuries. And I remember it wasn't until I I started walking again and coming back and just going in the local gym at training. Members of public will be saying, "Oh, are you thinking about retiring?" And there were no way inside my head that I was even contemplating retiring. Or even, it didn't even cross my mind. But I suppose people kind of write you off, and that still drives me as well. I remember all them tough days when you wake up and your recovery's not going great. Just people the negative kind of thing that I got from that still is a massive driver for me as well. So yeah, it was tough. I would have been. I'd met Kirby at the time, and I'd probably not be great, if I'm honest. I wouldn't have been great to live with during that few months. Your kind of career's up in the air. You actually wonder if you're ever going to play again. And I definitely went through days where rehab didn't go great, and you weren't running great, and you actually question, will I ever not play again, but get to the level of performance that you was at before? So it was definitely probably the most challenging time of my career.
Because I've heard you say in interviews, that strangely the question that people used to ask you when you were injured wasn't how long are you out for, it's, but are you still getting paid? As if to say, if you're still getting paid, it's fine. But they just didn't get it, did they?
Yeah, that's the. So I'd be in with the Achilles. I was in like an air cast boot. I'm sure you've seen them, like the big, the big space boots, and you'd be walking around, and that's the first thing you get. What have you done? How long are you out for? Do you get paid? Do you still get paid? And you still obviously get paid your full salary, but that's kind of missing the point. It's no one wants to be injured, and it's the toughest part about being a professional athlete. If you kind of ask any athlete, I'd say the toughest part is them injuries, and I had 2 on the bounce, and touch wood, they're in the past, and the body's feeling great. Obviously, we're not playing at the moment due to the coronavirus, but it kind of gives me a chance as well to kind of rest up.
Yeah, I've seen these amazing videos of you practicing your kicking into the kids' trampoline.
I'm just trying to pass a bit of time. Yeah, so I've got a bag of balls in the garage, but they're all flat. So imagine being a professional rugby player with a sack of 15 balls that are all flat. So they're not much good at all. But yeah, I just kind of passing time, really. As I mentioned, I won't normally get this time. I probably leave the house at 6:30 and get back probably 4 o'clock. So you kind of miss, especially with the little one. Bex's at school now, but you miss a big chunk of their early kind of years. So making the most of it now.
Obviously, Rugby League World Cup here in 2021. How big is that for Rugby League?
Massive. I think, especially being involved in the 17 one and getting that close and kind of falling at the final hurdle. It's massive. I hopefully I'm going to be still in contention to kind of get a shirt for that and playing it on your own doorstep. I mean, I know how amazing experience I had in Australia. It was kind of the best experience of my life, to be honest. 7 weeks away, travelling Australia, playing the job, playing the game that I love and I can call my job. So playing it on home soil. And look, I think the English-Aussie kind of rivalry, beating the Aussies on your home soil would be in a World Cup would be massive, and I think it'd make up for the 17 loss as well.
And I know you do so much with kind of your Luke Gale Academy, and you've also got a role now, haven't you, as an ambassador for the World Cup here? Yeah,
I did. They got in touch. It was actually when I was injured. I thought it was real nice how they did it. They kind of got in touch. I got an email. I'd been injured probably 2 or 3 weeks, saying, "Look, Luke, I know you've got a bit of spare time on your hands, but we want to make you a kind of an ambassador for the Rugby League World Cup 2021." So I went in, had a meeting, absolutely jumped at the chance, and no, that's been great. And it's my kind of role with that is kind of, not only do we want the World Cup to be a great success, we want to kind of leave a legacy. So whether that be in communities such as my community where I grew up, Middleton, if we can build and help build a new pitch and get grants for the new pitch, new facilities, and kind of, so when the World Cup's gone on, hopefully we've won, but in say 5 years' time, we've left kind of a legacy behind us, and with grassroots kind of getting kids into the game and having great facilities, and that's kind of the whole idea behind the ambassadorial work with the World Cup. So no, it's a role that I'm really proud of, and it's a role that I really enjoy as well. So yeah, hopefully I'm an ambassador and a player as well come 2021.
It's amazing, really, in two senses. Firstly, the fact that they spotted that and thought, you know what, he's going to have a bit more time on his hands, and it also might be a difficult time for him to have the second injury. So that let's try and give him something positive so how he can still be proactive. But also that thing of, I know how important it is to you to try and encourage that participation and kind of the facilities and future of the sport. You have no better vehicle to do that. And for you to be able to help that, it must be amazing.
Yeah, it was, and I did say I thought it was massive on that part, and kind of give me a massive boost at the time as well. As I say, I was probably a few days into the injury, probably wasn't feeling great mentally anyway, but that was a massive tonic, and it probably coincides with, as you mentioned, the academy. I started a foundation a couple of seasons ago, kind of on the basis of, I was coaching kids anyway, and I started camps. But where I'm from, Middleton, it kind of got shut down probably 10 years ago. So most of my childhood memories are at that rugby club, Middleton Marauders Rugby Club, and it got shut down 10 years ago. I think there weren't enough people playing. I think lack of funding, kind of all them rolled into one, kind of shut the whole place down, and it's no longer there anymore. In fact, I actually think it got burnt down at arsonist attack probably 6 months ago, and that kind of drove me to kind of give a bit back to the community as well, and because many of my, as I say, younger years were spent at that place, so I want to kind of give back to allow the youth of today to kind of feel what I felt, and I feel like rugby league has been such a good thing for me, and I think it's learnt you taught me many life lessons as well, and I want kids to kind of have the opportunity that I got. So that was a massive part of kind of setting up the foundation. We do stuff in schools. We work with the Leeds Rhinos Foundation as well. So that's been. I think it coincided with that, the foundation and the ambassadorial work at the Rugby League World Cup. So it's always good to kind of give back. And as I say, the younger generation kind of might miss that opportunity if there's not anything there for them to do. So no, it's a massive part of what I do, and something I'm really proud of.
It's amazing, I guess, to be able to give back to something which, looking back, you wonder maybe where you would be now if it wasn't for the opportunities you had at those local grounds and all the rest of it. But something that we try to ask everyone, bear with us, this one's a little bit more difficult. If you could call yourself, probably maybe back when you were about 25 and you were at that bit of a crossroads, obviously with everything happened with your mum, and you could give yourself some advice now, knowing what you know, what do you think you might say?
Wow, that's a good question. Just probably this. What I've kind of told myself, kind of all my career, just keep going and never give up. And I think mindset is everything. I know I've spoke a lot about mindset, but I suppose I could have quite easily then just kind of thrown in the towel. Injuries, I had a couple of injuries back then. I lost my mum. My career wasn't going great, and I could have kind of just said, "Look, I've given it a good go, but it's kind of just not worked out." But that kind of mentality is not inside me. So it would just be kind of just kind of never give up, and I believe mindset is everything. And I think that's all. I think all the best performers in the world. Now, I'm not putting myself in that bracket, but I've been watching. I'm not sure if you watched Michael Jordan's The Last Dance. It's probably the best sports documentary I've kind of ever watched. But his mindset is just far superior to anyone else, and there's no wonder that he's got that far, because his mindset and his willingness to kind of to win is second to none. And I suppose that's one thing that I've always wanted to kind of give myself, the winning mentality and the mindset. So yeah, your question, I know it kind of might be a bit boring, but kind of never give up. The never give up mentality kind of has stood me in good stead. So it'd definitely be that.
It's not boring at all. I think in the coming season, everybody in England and everybody in Leeds will certainly be glad that you never gave up. And Luke, just thank you so much. We'll wish you we'll wish you so well, and wish you all the best for when everything gets back up and going, both with Leeds and with hopefully England in the World Cup too. We'll all certainly be supporting you. And just thanks again for coming on.
No, appreciate that, Nick. Really enjoyed it. And no, thanks for your time. And no, great chatting to you. And I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
So there you go, the journey of Leeds' very own, one of our hometown heroes, Mr Luke Gale. Don't forget, we'll be back next week with another guest, and in the meantime, if you're still looking for a little bit more Candypants in your life, you can find our Candypants radio show that has a new episode every single Thursday with just Daniel. All you've got to do is search Candypants wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. But until then, as always, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you all very soon.